late at night in a bar drunk and addicted to abs. I didn't expect the male god to suddenly appear. I've been pretending to be so long. So you like this? Some time ago, someone in the school rumored that he got the Weshit account of the male god Luther Croft. I don't believe it. Alma Frank, have been lurking around him silently for so long and haven't gotten it? How can anyone say that there is? And immediately he added the man. The other party passed in seconds. My heart trembled, but I didn't expect a message to appear in the dialog box immediately. On a sale, Weshit ID 288, Weshit ID plus private photo 588, limited, no bargaining, once sold, will not be refunded, I'll it, TSK. Now how can everyone have it? What private photos? How can you sell this kind of thing? It's really morally corrupt. Morally corrupt. Then I just threw it off. Come on a 588, after the red envelope was received. The other party did not respond. Best friend Lilith Palmer laughed at me getting, in the midst of the pain of being pitted. The man sent a link and a string of numbers. This link doesn't have a virus, does it? Lilith Palmer wondered. Toxic is poisonous. I made up my mind to click in, and a few pictures quickly popped up. For a moment, my face flushed. In the photo, Luther Croft is dressed coolly, and her movements are provocative and sultry, which makes people think about it. Do you have a private photo? Let me see it. Before I could react, Lilith Palmer snatched my phone. Well, how can you take this kind of picture? My eyes were glued to my phone, pretending to be sad, but my heart was very excited, thinking that I would save it immediately. Luther Croft usually looks cold and rigid, but I didn't expect to have such an open and bold appearance, which is almost going to kill me. This picture is a composite at all. You see, Lilith Palmer looked at it for a long time, stretched out her slender jade fingers, and pointed to the place where the face meets the body in the picture. Yes, what? I leaned over to take a closer look, and it was true that the face and body were not the same color. You think about it with your brain. Luther Croft's cold and arrogant appearance would take this kind of picture, but it's a good figure in this photo. Lilith Palmer smiled lewdly, tapped her hands, and shared the picture with herself. Well, how could my Luther Croft take such a picture? Expected but a little disappointed. Alas, I thought I could really see the photo of Luther Croft showing his abs. By the way, there is also a Weshit ID. I grabbed my phone, swiped a few times to copy the string of Weshit accounts, and searched for it, and then, the words, a health supplement Oliver, appear on the page. I didn't speak for a long time. Girlfriend, ha 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 ha. Yes, I was so sturdily deceived. Looking at the red exclamation mark that had spoken to the man, I shed tears of regret. 588 It's just like that, and I can't sleep tonight. I've had a crush on Luther Croft for 3 years now. From my freshman year to now, I will always remember the day of the school report. I wore my favorite white dress, held a large bag of luggage, and rushed with great interest and sweating, and the return rate was super high along the way. I was complacent in my heart. My beauty finally couldn't hide it. It wasn't until he suddenly appeared and took off his shirt to surround me that I glanced back, and instantly petrified, and menstruation came. I just remember that the sun was beautiful that day, and he was even better. Fate is always wonderful. And soon after the start of school, I chose the club I liked very much, and on the day I officially joined, I was surprised to find that he actually participated, but he apparently doesn't remember me anymore. There was no sunlight that day, and he looked cold, but it was so good that we met again. Since then, I have told myself that I must take this man, but I found that there were many girls who liked him. Each one was better and more beautiful than the other, and he didn't even look at it. So how could I? Alma Frank. I'm getting a little timid. In this way, I kept a certain distance around him, from my freshman year to my junior year. Sometimes I wonder why he hasn't been in love for so long. Has he not met someone he likes? Or is there someone in my heart who hasn't let go? Or does he actually dislike girls at all? I panicked, thinking that the progress should be improved a little, but I didn't even have his contact information. You wouldn't have gone all night without sleep, would you? My girlfriend woke up early in the morning, and was scared by my dark circles. I thought I'd get closer to Luther Croft this time, and blame that liar. As I spoke, I began to choke again. Ha 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 ha. Lilith Palmer's unconscionable laugh. You should just put Luther Croft in the corner and be tougher. It's not like I haven't thought about it that way. After all, crushes aren't my style. But the thought of doing so might hate me. Alas, forget it. It's better to just look at him from afar, in order to prevent any more ignorant girls like me from being deceived. The screenshots of the chat were anonymously hung on the confession wall by me. For a while, many people commented below, "This man is so hateful. Dig 3 feet into the ground and find him. That's a liar. Ha ha. The landlord is so stupid that he can't even see such a clumsy deception." Well, I alone can't tell this is a liar. My heart was extremely congested, and I immediately replied below, "The matter has come to this family. Please comfort." A minute later, an impromptu conversation popped up. "Sister, I'm here to join in the fun." Well, I was suspicious. The next second, my whole body was paralyzed like a lightning strike, and I suddenly realized that it was too late. Dizzy. The reply is not anonymous. My phone rang non-stop for a while, and I never thought that so many people could send me messages. All of them came to ask me questions. Well, the heart is colder. In all the despair, there was only a glimmer of happiness. But fortunately I wasn't stupid enough to expose Luther Croft's head. Alas, you can only pretend to be dead and rot. Fortunately, there is no class today, so I don't have to go to the classroom to meet people. Otherwise, it would be a large-scale social death scene. I searched on the computer for a day for how to get back the defrauded money, and there was only one reliable answer: call the police. Alarm. Isn't that a shame to be thrown to the police, uncle? That's it. When the wealth is ruined, avoid disaster. In the evening, Lilith Palmer walked through the door. "Don't worry, a buddy I know said there is a way to help you find that scammer and recover the money. Just wait for the news." Really, so powerful. I was immediately interested, grabbed her, and my eyes lit up. "What buddy? What's your name? Why haven't I heard you say there is such a person?" "His name is Benedict Hall, and we met him at the last party." Lilith Palmer slapped open my gossip brain, and ran to her own bed. "Tell me honestly, what's going on with you and Benedict Hall?" I circled Lilith Palmer like I was going to eat her. "It's nothing." Her eyes were evasive, obviously abnormal. "Oh, those who don't tell the truth are punished." The gossip factor in me burned, and I moved my hand, and threw myself at her with a wicked smile. Forced by my threat, she finally confessed that after the party, everyone drank the film, and when she woke up the next day, she found Benedict Hall sleeping next to her, and immediately beat him up as a hooligan, only to learn later that it was a misunderstanding. That's a lot of information. I was smiling obscenely. "Don't think about it. Nothing happened to us," Lilith Palmer explained, somewhat flustered. "Oh, you know. Say, how do you feel?" I laughed even more lewdly. "Roll on. I don't want to pay attention to you." Lilith Palmer swiped and closed the curtain behind her desk. After a few seconds, she swiped and pulled away. "Hey sister, come on. Benedict Hall asked me to play a game." "What's the point of 2 people playing? You can come too." I didn't really want to play, but when I thought that this warm-hearted buddy could get my money back, I still happily became the king. I was pulled into a 5-row room. Benedict Hall's profile picture is recognizable because his ID is handsome. I vomited, still very polite, typing on the screen, "Thank you, handsome Benedict Hall, for your kind help." There was a hearty laugh in the air. "It's okay. Lilith Palmer's friend is my friend. It should be. Yo, this is nothing." I looked at Lilith Palmer ambiguously. This guy gave me a blank look and ignored me. There is also an ID in the room that is even more funny, called Lucky, and soon called on the public screen, "Hello, young lady. I am Benedict Hall's roommate. 4 are missing." And Lilith Palmer shouts at Benedict Hall, "There is no one left. Recruit 1 if there is none." Yes. On the other end, Benedict Hall didn't know what he was shouting. Soon, a man named Pingan came in, and he seemed to be normal. Benedict Hall picked the shooter in seconds. Lilith Palmer picked the lane and told me to take the support, and Lucky and Ping and picked the counter lane and jungler respectively. I'm the assistant to follow Benedict Hall. I was tired from running around when Benedict Hall had cleared his troops, and ran to the middle to help Lilith Palmer. The battle was fierce. and for a while only the crisp sound of clicking and slashing people was heard. Just as it was getting hot, Pinguin suddenly opened the microphone, and a cold voice came. Assist the 4th level to come to the wild area to find me. There was a buzz in my head, and I was stunned for 2 seconds. The voice is Luther Croft. That's Luther Croft's voice. My mother. OMG. My fingers trembled with excitement. I couldn't swipe my phone. My heart was beating out of my chest. Why was Luther Croft here? Is it really Luther Croft? Lilith Palmer noticed my abnormality, understood in seconds, and immediately asked, Benedict Hal, who is the jungler? Is it your roommate too? Oh yes, it's my roommate, Luther Croft. My hanging heart fell with a bang, and then it was like a ball full of air, bouncing like joy in an instant, and I jumped so excited that I was about to fly into the sky. It's really Luther Croft. Probably too excited, I carried the tower to death and said, I'm dead. Then I heard laughter from there. Benedict Hal quickly cleared the question. It's not me laughing, it's Luther Croft. Luther Croft. There was instant silence over there. It's over. I'm embarrassed and thrown home, and my face instantly turns red. Embarrassed. I've been wandering around the wild area since I was resurrected. Come up, Luther Croft said abruptly. Hey. I was in a bit of a trance when I listened. I say, come to me. Luther Croft repeats it, and it sounds a little ambiguous. Oh, good. It's like some kind of magic, and I obediently hang on him all the time. Come up. Lilith Palmer suddenly smiled, and came over to me, and whispered in my ear. My ears were itchy, my heart beat instantly faster, and my face burst red. This guy, what a beating. Later, at the end of the game, I looked at Pinguin's avatar, held my breath, and cautiously clicked to add his friends. 1 minute, 2 minutes, the 3rd minute, he agreed. I grabbed my phone and rolled on the bed several times in excitement. Then, I just rolled around in bed and couldn't sleep, and my ears kept his, come up, in my ears. Help, kill me, I swear I'll hear this phrase for the rest of my life. Then I fell asleep in a blur, and then I had a dream in which a man was holding me in bed, and his head was buried in my neck, and he called me, Alma Frank, and I wanted to open my eyes to see who it was, but I couldn't open my eyes. But the voice sounded familiar. Alma Frank, come up. The man suddenly spoke. It was Luther Croft. The voice was Luther Croft. He seemed to be whispering in my ear, panting, snorting. It tickled my ears for a moment. Ha ha ha. I couldn't help but laugh. I woke up laughing, and when I opened my eyes, the Lilith Palmer guy was tickling my ears with her hair. Really, bad luck, Alma Frank. What are you doing? Smiling so happily. I had a spring dream last night. Look at this watermark on the pillow. TSK. Looking at the lewd expression on Lilith Palmer's face, I couldn't help but think about the dream I had last night. Oops. It's a bit of a shame. Lilith Palmer. Whose class is it today? I began to get dressed slowly. Oh no. It's Professor Mason's first class. When Lilith Palmer finished speaking, she immediately panicked, and my heart also cooled. Professor Mason's classes are held in the second half of the semester, and although they are electives, he is notoriously strict. As long as he finds that someone is late or leaves early, then it is over, and he can prepare for the next semester's make-up exam. That was the first time I could deeply feel that the ability of people in desperate situations is limitless, and it only took us 3 minutes to get from the dormitory to the classroom. When I ran to the classroom, I felt like I was going to collapse. Lilith Palmer, over here. As soon as I entered the door, someone shouted. Lilith Palmer pulled me over, and it was Benedict Hal, who had also taken the course. People are like screen names, and it's pretty handsome. I couldn't help but look at him a few more times and notice that this guy has been staring at Lilith Palmer since we entered the door. I tapped him on the shoulder, laughed, and was about to make a joke when Benedict Hal beckoned again. Luther Croft, come here, I've got a seat for you. Brush. My heart stopped. When I looked up, I saw a slender and handsome boy, slowly walking towards this side, exuding a cold temperament all over his body. I didn't look at the yellow calendar when I went out, but on this good day today, I didn't take care of myself. I regret it a lot. He drew closer, and the seat Benedict Hal had given him right next to me. I felt like my breathing was about to stop. I lowered my head and didn't dare to look. My hand pretending to flip through the book was trembling slightly, and my heart was full of anticipation. There was a crisp smell wafting between his snorts, but it was empty, and no one sat down. Luther Croft walked straight back, and sat diagonally to the window at the back. Benedict Hall whispered to him how he sat there, his voice devoid of any warmth. I don't want to sit next to anyone else. I lowered my eyes, and the bitterness in my heart turned into a dark sea, and I thought that the distance between us would shrink a little. Throughout the day, I was depressed until the afternoon, when Benedict Hall added me to wish it, and then a red envelope came over. Miss Alma Frank, I've caught the liar. That kid is a habitual offender, and he has been reported to the school for processing. This is your 588. Put it away, and don't be deceived again. With tears in my eyes, I quickly accepted the red envelope, thinking that this Benedict Hall could do it so fast. Thank you so much, Lao Tai. Why don't I treat you to dinner? There's no need to eat. I want to ask you for a little favor, and meet for a detailed chat. Benedict Hall looked mysterious. As the saying goes, the grace of a drop of water should be reciprocated by a spring, not to mention a small favor. I gladly accepted. As I expected, Benedict Hall's help had to do with Lilith Palmer. He likes Lilith Palmer, but Lilith Palmer always avoids him, so he wants me to act with him. Let me pretend to be closer to him, stimulate Lilith Palmer, and when the time comes, ask Lilith Palmer confession. This, I was a little hesitant. It was a bit unkind to deceive my sisters. However, for the sake of my sister's happiness, I slapped Benedict Hall on the shoulder and agreed. After that day, Benedict Hall deliberately distanced himself from Lilith Palmer, walking very close to me, sometimes with some fake body movements, which really looked like that. Alma Frank, you and Benedict Hall. Lilith Palmer finally couldn't take it anymore, and grabbed me. I looked at her jealous and unable to attack because of her friend's face, and my heart turned over, and I pretended to be confused. I think that person, not bad, enthusiastic, handsome, much better than Luther Croft. I'll send a message to Benedict Hall, when the time comes. Get ready to act. In the evening, with a cool breeze, I waited for Benedict Hall downstairs in the boys' dormitory, and after a long time of preparation, I was finally done, and I was thrilled to think about it. Someone walked gently from behind, and when I turned around and saw Luther Croft in the breeze, my heart trembled. Mustering up courage and just about to say hello to him, Benedict Hall ran down the stairs. Alma Frank, it's been a long time. He smiled and handed me a bottle of water, which I took and quickly turned around. Hey, I pretended to have a natural smile still on my face, and Luther Croft's gaze stopped on my face for a second. Then he crossed over to me, glanced at Benedict Hall, and said to him coolly, "Don't look away at people." I froze in place, as if a cold current had swept through my heart, sharp and cold, and I couldn't speak when I heard the blood gushing out. I have never felt that he is so cold, like a cold star tens of thousands of light years out of reach. Luther Croft perspective. I'm Luther Croft. Don't look at me as a dog now. There are a bunch of troublesome women chasing after me, and I see everyone looking like, you don't deserve it. Actually, I used to be a hanger and a loaf all day. That day, I asked Cash Ulysses to have a fight, and I didn't expect that he would call a large group of people to come without speaking of martial arts. But fortunately I am a black belt in Taekwondo, otherwise I might have to hang up some color. At this time, a yellow-haired girl in a school uniform came out of nowhere, and ran over to say that she had called the police, who was deceived by this trick. But I didn't expect that Cash Ulysses kid to be scared on the spot. The yellow-haired girl grabbed me and ran away, and I looked confused. She wears a high ponytail and sways in the sun, and the thief looks good. I ran like this for a long time before I stopped, and she panted and said that I didn't need to thank her, and the next time someone bullied me, I would directly report her name, and she covered me. It was the first time I'd ever heard someone say they wanted to protect me, and that was kind of funny. I just wanted to tell her brother, I am a mixed society, and I am not afraid of being beaten. Before I could speak, she said directly, I hate that kind of social gangster the most in my life. Clear eyes were full of hatred. I swallowed the words that came to my lips instantly, and casually asked, What's your name? What? I patiently repeated. I said, what's your name? What? Damn, is this girl having a hearing problem? I had to think about it, ready to raise the volume and ask again. She hurriedly turned around and ran away, saying that it was time for class. Since then, I often think of her. I think of her running away with my hand. I think of her laughing, and even think of her saying that she doesn't like gangsters. And gradually I don't even want to fight. I just think about her. It was as if, in the gray and chaotic life, a light suddenly appeared, illuminating my heart. I'm going to study with her. Then we will go to university and then we will come together. I made up my mind, but I didn't know what school she was in. I went back and begged the guy, who had never called him daddy, to use his connections to help me find her school. And that was the first time I begged him when I was so old, probably because I was sorry for my mother. And he agreed. I finally came to her school, although I was not in the same class. But it didn't matter, I could always see it from a school. She is very popular and is always surrounded by a lot of people. She loves to laugh and looks good when she laughs. Her grades were very good. I was always at the bottom of my grades, and my mother's school was really troublesome. But I always remembered her sentence, I hate gangsters the most in my life. I vowed to get rid of that label because I hadn't been to school for a long time, and I had a little bit of a hard time studying. But when I think of her, I study hard, from early morning to early morning. Others play and I learn. Others learn and I am still learning. Just like that, my grades rise very quickly. Gradually, the distance between us is getting shorter and shorter. On the day of the college entrance examination results, I asked others about her grades in the desire to fill in. She didn't seem to be very good in the exam, and could only fill in an ordinary one. I looked at my score of 985, and decisively filled in the same school as her. If it weren't for her, I guess I would only be fighting with others right now. End of Luther Croft view. Alma Frank was sad. I wrote this phrase over and over again in my journal, crying as I wrote. This is a little method of mine. Every time I am in a bad mood, I will keep writing in my diary. And when I am tired of writing, it seems to be a little better. That night, Benedict Hall stood downstairs playing the piano and singing and confessed to Lilith Palmer. To be honest, it was really corny, but I was so moved. No matter how many people like each other, they will always come together in the end. But what about one-sided crushes? Walking on thin ice, trembling, like walking in a long, dark abyss with no end in sight. Really, it's so hard. It's so hard. I lay wilted on the bed, depressed, staring at the ceiling in a daze, sighing heavily, and closing my eyes. Ding dong, a message popped up on Weshit, and I finally fell asleep, and was woken up again. I grabbed my phone and tried to curse, but a line appeared on the phone screen. Interstellar request to add you as a friend. Leave a note, I'm Luther Croft. I squinted at it, put down my phone and closed my eyes, and suddenly realized something. Luther Croft. It's not like it's a liar trying to cheat money again, is it? I struggled inwardly for a long time, but I agreed. Sent a passed. I didn't expect the other party to reply in seconds. Team building charges 200. Suddenly I was furious. I was in a bad mood, and the scammer asked for money as soon as he came up. I replied directly, if you don't want money, you need to die. There was no response. Sure enough, it's really a liar. The old lady is in a bad mood. You bump into it, then don't tease. So, I asked, are you really Luther Croft? The other party replied with an, then I'll make a video call to confirm. I quickly dialed a video call. A real liar won't dare to take the video. See if I don't harass you to death. Just as I bared my teeth and cursed, the other party actually took it. For a moment, familiar handsome faces took over my entire phone screen. Luther Croft was sitting at her desk, as if she had just finished a shower and hadn't had time to wipe the water. Her thin tank top sticking to her body, the contours of her muscles looming, the water in her hair sliding down her hair strands, dripping on her fair collarbone, and a pair of dark eyes staring at me through the screen, burning. And I, at the moment, was lying on my side on the bed, with messy hair, disheveled clothes, a lewd smile on my face, and several layers of my chin squeezed out. I was petrified in an instant. My heart was pounding, and I hurriedly turned off the camera. Well, if you don't have any money, I'll help you cushion it first. Luther Croft paused, his tone a little unnatural, and I suddenly noticed that his ears were a little red. Rich, I've got money. I just thought you were a liar. I cleared my throat quietly, my heart thundering. Liar. Luther Croft looked puzzled. Shoo was too loud. My roommate tossed and turned, and I lowered the volume. I'll transfer the money to you later. Hang up first. He was about to say something, but I pressed it too quickly to hear it. What is the team building fee? I opened the community group that had been blocked for a long time, and the news was full. The club that hadn't moved for a long time organized an event, and the president pulled Luther Croft in and asked him to collect for the team building fee. I quickly transferred the money to Luther Croft, feeling apprehensive. After a few seconds, Luther Croft accepted the red envelope and returned it to me. If you don't have any money, keep it. I've already cushioned it for you. Whoa, is this spending money on me? Isn't it? I looked at the chat box with Luther Croft and shook in bed with excitement. Alma Frank, do you have epilepsy? The sister next door was dissatisfied and slapped my bedboard with a palm. Lilith Palmer woke up early in the morning like an active bird, not knowing what time she didn't get back to her dorm last night, and now waking up so early. It was still very early before class, so she began to dress up, saying that she wanted her boyfriend to see the most beautiful appearance. Tut tut, this woman in love is just different. I couldn't sleep when I was woken up by her, and today is Professor Mason's class, so I can't see Luther Croft, and I feel like I've been beaten up when I think about last night. When I went downstairs, I saw Benedict Hell waiting for Lilith Palmer with breakfast in his hand and a smile. Thank you for your great kindness, and if you have a place to find me Benedict Hell in the future, just ask. He raised his head at me in a haughty manner. I gave him a blank look, and quickly took a bun out of his hand. When I arrived at the classroom half an hour early, there was no one yet, and I felt sleepy as soon as I entered. Forget it, squint for a while, just for a while. Alma Frank, it's almost class. Lilith Palmer poked me with her elbow, and I slowly opened my eyes, and wiped the saliva from the corners of my mouth. Here, baby, eat another one. Ah, be careful of the burn. Benedict Hell pouted and blew on the dumplings before feeding them to Lilith Palmer's mouth. I laughed. Hey buddy, after blowing dozens of times, the dumplings were cold. Baby, Lilith Palmer wants to drink a good guy. There are 3 overlapping words in a sentence, and sure enough, the person who is loved will always be a little hypocritical, and I really can't stand these 2 people. I got a haircut on my stray sleep, and it was class time, and the classroom was full. What about Luther Croft? I subconsciously looked for him. Suddenly I caught a glimpse of a girl in the corner, wearing a dark green long skirt, long hair shawl, bright and moving, full of amorous style, lying in the ear of the boy next to him, talking and laughing, and shyly beating him. My heart sank, because that boy is Luther Croft. But it was Luther Croft, whom I had never seen before, who didn't push away the girl's intimacy, but smiled at her and touched her head dotingly, so warm and gentle. But to others, it turns out that the girl he likes is this type. I bowed my head sadly, clenched my hands into fists, desperately trying to control and not let the tears fall, but they fell silently. On my childish pink dress, the male god is supposed to be a goddess. Where can a nave ghost like me think? The bitterness in my heart is indescribable, as if I have been chasing the light for a long time. And in an instant, the light is extinguished, leaving only a little helpless me, moving with great difficulty in the dark, at a loss. Alma Frank, what's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? Lilith Palmer saw me lying on the table. No, it's okay, I haven't woken up yet. You help me watch the teacher. I'll lie down for a while. I struggled to keep myself from Lilith Palmer noticing my anomaly. After class, you're Alma Frank, aren't you? I looked up and saw that it was her, the girl next to Luther Croft, who was standing in front of me looking at me, with a smile in her eyes. Before I could speak, Lilith Palmer looked wary. Looks like I've never seen you before. Are you? My name is Agella. I'm from Luther Croft. Girlfriend. She deliberately emphasized Luther Croft, the words girlfriend, out of a woman's intuition. She was saying it to me. What? Girlfriend. I've never heard of Luther Croft having a girlfriend. Lilith Palmer was startled and looked at me. Oh, I just came back from abroad today, and Luther Croft said he missed me so much. All. She smiled sweetly, her face full of confidence and calmness. Is there anything wrong with you? Lilith Palmer stood up with a cold face, and stood in front of me, looking like she was going to fight. It's okay. Ha ha. She smiled and turned away, just walked away from her. What does this mean? Just to provoke. It's too much of a deception. 10. Luther Croft is not the only man in this world, and my sister will take you to see the world tonight. After Lilith Palmer finished speaking, she dragged me out of bed roughly, washing her face with tears all day. In the dormitory, she rummaged through the cabinets and finally chose a sexy and hot little dress. You want me to wear this? What can this piece of cloth block? I glanced listlessly at the clothes in her hand. She gave me a blank look. You know what? This is a must-have suit for hot girls. Look at what you're wearing. It's pink. It's NAVE or not. Just a minor like you. I'm afraid you can't even enter the door of the bar. I ended up wearing that little dress, and Lilith Palmer designed my makeup and even lent me her most precious boots. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at my hot self, and lost my mind for a moment. Yes, that's the right smell. Lilith Palmer looked very satisfied, and finally sprinkled some perfume on me, saying that it was called a men's incense. In the evening, I followed her to the bar. What Luther Croft? What male god? Get out of here. The music was deafening, and I hugged Lilith Palmer and yelled, crying and laughing. My voice was hoarse, and I couldn't stop crying after drinking wine. After crying today, let everything disappear. Took out his mobile phone, showed the brightest smile, compared it to the camera, and then sent it to Moments. I learned from the people around me to raise their hands and shake their bodies to the music, as if I was a little happy. Beauty. Alone. A man suddenly squeezed in front of me. What did you say? The music was so loud that I couldn't hear what he was saying. I said, you're very beautiful. Can you add a weshet? He leaned into my ear and raised his voice. The person in front of him is a different type from Luther Croft. Ruffian, and quite handsome. Drunk. I looked at him and sneered. Less than 6 abs don't talk. He was instantly amused, then lifted his clothes, and the outline of his abdominal muscles loomed in the dim light. I was stunned. I just casually said that I didn't expect him to be really. The next second, he grabbed my hand and put it down. At that time, there was only one feeling in my mind. This feeling was amazing. I couldn't help but touch a few handfuls, and the man wanted to climb my waist. Suddenly, someone pulled me, and I didn't stand still, and I fell into someone's arms. When he looked up, he saw Luther Croft's handsome face, darker than the clouds, and he frowned, yelling at the man, "Get out!" The man was frightened and disappeared in an instant. I just felt dizzy, and unconsciously raised my hand to pinch his face. Hey! I started dreaming before I even went to sleep. Suddenly, a warm object was attached to my lips, and I raised my eyes just to meet Luther Croft's eyes, and I wanted to eat people's eyes, viciously, and a fishy sweetness spread in my mouth. I woke up all of a sudden, and then my ears and face were red, and the music around me was loud, but my heart was beating louder. Are you awake? I nodded obediently. He took my hand and dragged me out of the noisy environment, cornering me in the hallway, holding his hands on the wall, bending over and staring at me viciously. Other people's abs are so easy to touch. I've been pretending to be so long. You like this? He was so close to me that I could smell the faint smell of tobacco on him, and I swallowed unconsciously as I watched his rolling Adam's apple. I don't know why he suddenly became like this, so try not to look at him with his face. He reached out and straightened my face, and forced me to face him. I was really frightened, and when I thought about his girlfriend again, my eyes instantly turned red. I'm sorry, did I hurt you? He seemed to be panicking, and his tone immediately softened. Scumbag, I like you, but you have a girlfriend. What's the matter with provoking me? I couldn't get angry, and tears fell uncontrollably. You say what? You say you like me? He looked at me with wide eyes and incredulity. Say it again. I was yelled at by him and cried even louder, as if I wanted to turn all the sadness of my 3-year crush into tears. Crying and crying. Suddenly his body hung in the air, and he was already hugged hard. There was a warm touch on his forehead, and Luther Croft's voice was muffled. Alma Frank, I like you too. I like very much. I was so caught in my arms that I forgot to cry. The male god, who has liked me for 3 years actually likes me too. It can't be a dream. Don't you have a girlfriend? I muttered quietly. What girlfriend? Luther Croft looked confused. It's the big beautiful woman who accompanied you in class last time. I'm very angry. He smiled, and smiled happily. Why, you even have to eat my sister's vinegar. Lilith Palmer called directly and said, Wow, Alma Frank, you can do it. It's so fast. Before I could react, I heard another voice from Benedict Hell next to me. I, Alma Frank, am mighty. Tell my little brother how I got the Cowlin flower of Luther Croft. Aha. I looked around with a confused face. Do these two people have clairvoyance? Isn't this just a confession? What's going on? Raising my eyes, I saw Luther Croft smiling and waving her phone at me. Just now, I made an official announcement. I hurriedly turned on my phone, and saw his circle of friends at a glance. The photo of me being held by him, and the comment area below had been flooded and exploded. My face turned red again. You're a man. Why don't you go through me without my permission? Luther Croft raised her eyebrows, her eyes sharp. This is called swearing sovereignty, so that no one will sneak out and touch other people's abs next time. I was momentarily embarrassed and whispered, that's because I just got drunk, and I really didn't mean to. Heh. Luther Croft slammed closer. Don't touch anyone in the future. With that, he lifted his clothes and put my hand on his 8-pack abs. I was stunned. My little hands couldn't help but wander. And I have to say that Luther Croft's abs are really amazing. Why are you hot? Aren't you feeling well? I stopped and looked at him worriedly. Seeing that his face was a little red, he grabbed my hand and seemed to swallow a mouthful of saliva with difficulty. His voice a little hoarse. If you touch it like this, I'm going to cross the line. I reacted suddenly. My heart jumped, and I hurriedly withdrew my hand. Then I won't touch it. He smiled wickedly. It's late. It was late and I couldn't get into the dormitory, so he took me to the nearest hotel. In the room, the atmosphere between the two gradually became ambiguous. Luther Croft. I'm afraid. I shyly buried my head in Luther Croft's arms. Fool, I don't do anything. You must be very uncomfortable after drinking so much wine just now. Sleep. I'll hold you. Luther Croft patted me on the back, gentle and doting. Naturally, I believed him, rubbed like a kitten in his arms, sniffed his smell and fell asleep. In the middle of the process, I woke up and saw the boy next to me with his eyes closed, quietly leaning over and whispering in his ear, Luther Croft, I really like you. He opened his eyes at once, and there were countless stars twinkling in his eyes, and kissed me on the forehead. Fool, sleep. I like you more than you think, and we will always be together. Slowly I fell asleep, and in my sleep, he and I really stayed together all the time, so long that our children called me Mom, called him Dad, so long that our hair was gray, and we went to the beach to watch fireworks together, so long that I can't remember how long. In this way, it is already good. Extra 1. I'm Luther Croft. Finally, on the day of the start of the university, I was waiting for her at the school gate early. When I saw her, I was so excited that I wanted to go up and talk to her, but I didn't dare. I only dared to follow her. Yourself. A lot of people looked at her and laughed, which made me very uncomfortable and wanted to beat people. It turned out that her menstrual period had arrived, and she had soiled her white dress, so I hurried over and took off my shirt to surround her. She stared back at me for a long time. For the first time in a long time, we were so close, and I had only dared to look at her from behind her, and I was a little embarrassed, and I was afraid that she would recognize me, and walked away immediately. I went with her when I found out about the club she liked, and that day I spoke on behalf of the new members, and I said that my name was Luther Croft, and I was talking to her alone, afraid of revealing clues. I can only pretend to be cold all these years by her side. I've always wanted to find a chance to confess to her, but I've heard that she has someone she likes. Damn, what kind of kid is it? Want to abolish him? She was actually cheated of money on the internet, which is really silly and cute, but it was also her living expenses for half a month, and I helped her get the money back, and asked Benedict Hal to give it to her. I was so cowardly, I didn't dare to say a word to her. The first time I talked to her was in the game. I was so nervous. I pretended to be calm and turned on the microphone, and asked her to follow me, but I didn't expect her to be killed by the tower. It was so cute, I couldn't help but laugh. After the game, she also added me as a friend, and I happily didn't sleep well all night, but I never expected that the person she liked would be Benedict Hal, and I was added as a gaming friend because I was Benedict Hal's roommate. In class that day, she was so intimate with Benedict Hal, that I was so happy to see that I wanted to hammer Benedict Hal to the ground. The closer she and Benedict Hal got, the more sad I became, and I couldn't stand the sadness, so I could only avoid them as much as I could. That day, she was waiting for Benedict Hal in the boys' dormitory, looking expectant and happy, and I was going crazy with torture. I finally couldn't help my selfishness, and stabbed me hard. I don't know whether I wanted to stab Benedict Hal or her. I thought it would be a little better, but no. Looking at their walking figures, I slammed my fist against the wall, and my heart hurt more than my hand. Damn, I'm the biggest fool in the world. I was mistaken. Benedict Hal and Lilith Palmer in her dorm were a couple, and I was as stupid as a pig. No, I'm going to have to take action, and if I do it again, I'm going to be crazy. I just added her in the name of collecting team building fees. I was so witty. When she was taking a shower, she suddenly called the video, and I didn't have time to wipe the water on my body, so I wore a vest directly, and I was still a little nervous. Pick it up. The feeling of the video is really a little different. She is just lying on the bed. My heart is beating wildly. A little bit of a feeling of falling in love. Ha ha ha. Denise Croft suddenly returned to China, and when she stopped by the school, she squeezed directly next to me, and sat down, saying that she wanted to care for her brother. She gossiped and asked me, "Do you have any girls you like?" I glanced at her blankly, and didn't want to pay attention to this troublesome sister, but my eyes involuntarily drifted forward. She is wearing a pink floral dress today. Her hair is draped. She is so beautiful. I can see that my heart is fluttering, and I can't hold it at all. After class, Denise Croft asked me to buy her a bottle of water, and when I got back, Alma Frank and the others were gone. At night, lying in bed, I clicked on her circle of friends and thought about what to do next, whether I had to learn from Benedict Hal. Suddenly she updated a selfie, clicked on it and looked. I was shocked. She was really sexy and cool, and she also painted a makeup, and there was a positioning pleasure bar underneath, etc. Pleasure bar. When I arrived, I saw at a glance that her hand was on the man's abdominal muscles, and the anger rushed directly from the soles of her feet to the Tianling guy, and she couldn't suppress it. The man still wanted to touch her waist. I really wanted to tear that kid. I completely lost my mind, and regardless of it, I pulled her over, and kissed her directly. The first kiss was not very skillful, and it made her bleed. I'm holding my breath in my heart. I've been pretending for so long. I didn't expect her to like this. It really makes me unhappy. She said in person that she liked me. I was stunned. It turned out that she liked me too. What she always liked was me. My God, my pig. Looking at her in front of me, I really wanted to eat her, but I knew I wouldn't. How could I give up her so precious? This little fool, saying that she is afraid. My heart is so soft. Dear Alma Frank, that we are in a long way, and there is no hurry. Then I asked Alma Frank, "When did you like me?" She said it was the first day of school, and then she asked me when I liked her. "I've liked you for a long time. What's your name?" What? That's Alma Frank. The end.